Welcome to another deep dive, and this time we're looking into the life and times of, well, a pretty fascinating guy, Tejinder Chatha.
Yeah, definitely fascinating.
We're going off of this Hindi documentary, which you know how those can be, a little on the longer side.
Yeah, a bit.
But Chatha's story is one for the books. I mean, going from a tiny village all the way to the Prime Minister's office, we're talking a meteoric rise to power. Big changes he made.
Mm.
Of course, a whole lot of controversy.
Oh, yeah.
And ultimately, a tragic end. And that's not even scratching the surface.
Right. It's like his story's not just a biography.
No?
It's more like it's a window into, well, all of Indian politics.
Yeah.
The struggles of reform, how power really works, and how much impact one leader can have.
You're right, even after they're gone.
Even after they're gone.
It's kind of like a mirror to India's modern history, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
So the documentary kicks off with Chatha's childhood.
Yeah.
Paints this picture of him as a young boy, simple family, and it seems like his history teacher, a Mr. Sultan Singh,
Oh, yeah.
really had a huge impact on him.
Oh, for sure. The documentary, it really emphasizes how this teacher, instilled this passion in him for leadership
Mhm.
and changing society. And it shows that even as a kid, Chatha was driven. Driven, yeah. The documentary even uses, these little stories
I'm interested.
from his childhood to show, his character, his determination, his sharp mind. It's almost like you're seeing the early signs of the leader he would become.
Makes you think, huh? What if Sultan Singh knew how much influence he had?
I know, right?
Anyway, fast forward a bit, and Chatha jumps into politics.
Head first.
Head first into politics in Haryana.
Right.
That's a pretty prominent state in North India.
Mm-hmm.
And he even becomes the chief minister for a while, which that's a big deal, right?
Huge. And the documentary really shows how he learned the ropes.
On the ropes.
During that time, navigating, all the complexities of regional politics.
Oh, yeah.
It's also when we first meet Sandeep Dul.
Sandeep Dul.
Yeah, he's a big player in all of this. He was Chatha's rival, sometimes his ally.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes his enemy. Their relationship was like a political dance.
Like dance.
Yeah, like 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
So more than just enemies.
Way more nuanced, and it really plays out on the national stage later on.
Okay. So how does Chatha go from chief minister of just one state to leading the whole country?
Well, that's where the DITIA coalition comes in.
DITIA.
It was this political alliance that Chatha put together.
Okay.
And it's through DIT that he wins not 1, but 2 historic elections, becoming prime minister.
Wow.
And the documentary calls his 9 years in office a golden age of development.
Golden age?
Yeah, which might sound a little dramatic, but
No,
they actually back it up with
Oh.
some pretty significant initiatives.
So, what kind of initiatives are we talking about here? What made
Yeah.
his time as prime minister so special?
Well, he launched some really ambitious projects.
Ambitious how?
Okay, so one was called Mission Sati Sapathi.
Sati Sapathi, okay.
Basically, digital revolution.
The revolution.
He wanted to bring internet access to even the most remote villages in India.
Wow.
And it had a huge impact on education.
Yeah, I bet.
Think about it. Millions of people, suddenly they have access to information,
Right.
learning opportunities that they never had before. And this was way before everyone was talking about the digital divide.
Yeah, that's ahead of its time.
Right.
It's like he predicted the future a little bit, seeing how important technology would become.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that sounds like a legacy right there.
It is.
But I bet there's more, right?
What else did he do?
Oh, there's definitely more. He also started Mission Agni,
Okay, Mission Agni.
which was all about setting up this temporary police force to,
Okay.
tackle crime, keep things in order. But this one was a bit more controversial.
What controversial? I mean, it sounds like a good thing.
On the surface, yeah. But the documentary does a good job of showing both sides.
Oh,
Some people saw it as a necessary step to restore safety,
yeah, makes sense.
especially with all the unrest at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But others, they saw it as a power grab, accusing Chatha of
Oh, wow.
creating a force that was basically operating outside the rules.
Really?
They even called it rule by thugs.
Rule by thugs. Wow.
Yeah, strong opinions on that one.
So he wasn't afraid to shake things up a bit,
Not at all.
make changes, even if some people didn't like it.
He was definitely a bold leader.
And doing all this while dealing with Sandeep Dul,
Oh, yeah.
his, what did you call him, frenemy?
Ranami, yeah. That dynamic, it continued to play out
Really?
during Chatha's time as prime minister.
Wow.
Just added to the whole, complexity of it all.
It sounds like Chatha had a knack for being in the middle of well, some pretty intense situations. Oh, yeah, definitely. And there's this one encounter that really stands out in the documentary.
Okay, what is it?
It involves a guy named Abu Afzal.
Who's Abu Afzal?
That's part of the mystery.
Oh,
The documentary doesn't give you the full picture.
really?
But it's clear he was a powerful guy operating in the shadows, you know?
Okay, I'm intrigued.
And his interactions with Chauthah,
Yeah.
they had some pretty big consequences. The documentary even suggests that their encounter might have been a turning point for Chauthah,
A turning point has?
leading to even more of those accusations that he was becoming authoritarian.
Authoritarian.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got ambitious projects, fierce rivals, and shadowy figures.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Chauthah was walking a tightrope, wasn't he?
He was.
And as you can imagine, all of this
Yeah.
sets the stage for, well, the tragic event that really defines his story, his assassination.
Right.
Wow. Okay, hold on. That's
Big stuff.
a lot to take in.
Yeah.
And we're definitely going to get to that.
Mm-hmm.
But before we go there, I want to rewind a bit
Okay.
and talk about some of his reforms, specifically his economic policies.
Oh, yeah.
Because you mentioned he had this vision of like self-reliance for India.
Right.
Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the economic landscape of India during Chauthah's time. So Chauthah, he really believed that India could stand on its own 2 feet, economically speaking, of course.
Okay.
He wanted to move away from relying on other countries and build up India's own industries.
Okay.
So he pushed for policies that, supported domestic businesses, promoted entrepreneurship, and reduced that dependence on imports.
So almost like a made in India kind of thing.
Exactly. He wanted to turn that slogan into a reality.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was less about putting up walls to keep foreign goods out.
Right.
It was more about,
Yeah.
strategic investments.
Okay.
He focused on specific sectors like manufacturing and technology where he thought India could really be a global leader.
Become a leader.
A leader, yeah.
Okay. And did it work?
Well, yeah, his reforms actually had a real impact, spurred economic growth, created jobs,
Wow.
helped to establish a stronger industrial base for India.
So it sounds like his economic policies were pretty successful.
They were.
So then why was there so much controversy around him? I mean, was it just the Mission Agni thing?
Mission Agni was definitely a big part of it.
Yeah.
But there were other factors too. Remember Sandeep Dul?
Oh, right. Chauthah's rival.
Exactly. Well, Dul was a vocal critic of Chauthah's reforms.
Oh, wait.
Oh, yeah. He argued that they, favored certain businesses
Okay.
and that they weren't doing enough to address poverty and inequality.
I see.
And Dul's criticisms, they resonated with some people,
Yeah.
particularly those who felt like they were being left behind by this economic boom.
So is that classic debate, benefits versus drawbacks of growth?
Exactly.
Some people winning, others feeling left out.
Right. And that tension, it was always there during Chaucer's time in office.
Wow. And then it all culminated with his assassination.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. The documentary says it was Abu Afzal's group, but it hints at something bigger, like a conspiracy, maybe involving Chauthah's political opponents.
Right. The documentary definitely raises more questions than it answers about that.
It does.
Yeah, it points to inconsistencies in the official story
Okay.
and highlights the fact that the investigation was, hindered
Hindered
by political interference.
Interesting.
It even suggests that some of Chauthah's rivals, they might have benefited from his death.
Okay, but it doesn't, directly accuse anyone.
No,
No.
it doesn't. It stops short of that, but it definitely wants you to think about what happened. Consider that maybe there's more to the story than we know.
Right, right.
It's almost like the documentary itself is like an investigation
Wow.
prompting us to dig deeper.
I like that.
Yeah.
And the aftermath of the assassination, that must have been chaotic. What happened in India after Chauthah's death?
Oh, it was a crazy time. His death, it just sent shockwaves through the whole nation.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Triggered protests, a political crisis, the DIT coalition, which was already kind of shaky. Yeah.
Oh, right, with Duel and everything.
Exactly. It's just completely fractured.
So even without the assassination, you think the coalition might have fallen apart anyway?
Hard to say for sure, but Chauthah's death, it definitely sped things up.
Right, of course.
And amidst all this chaos, this new political force emerged, the NDA coalition.
Wait, hold on. We haven't heard about them before. Who is the NDA coalition? How did they come to power?
So before Chauthah died, the NDA coalition, they were like a minor party.
Oh, really?
Yeah, mostly known for, criticizing Chauthas' government,
Okay.
calling him authoritarian, out of touch, that kind of thing.
Got it.
But after the assassination, they were able to use all that public anger
Yeah.
and disillusionment
Right.
to their advantage.
Smart.
Yeah, they promised change, accountability, a break from the past.
So they rode that wave of public sentiment right to the top.
Basically, yeah, they presented themselves as this fresh alternative to DITIA,
Yep.
which was now seen as, corrupt and incompetent.
Wow. That's a pretty incredible turnaround.
It is.
Going from a small party to leading the country.
Right. It just shows you the power of, political momentum.
Yeah. Especially after something as big as Chauthas' assassination.
Exactly.
So Chauthas gone, his coalition collapses, and a new political force takes over.
Right.
What about his legacy? Did any of his reforms continue?
That's a great question. Let's look at how India grappled with Chauthas' legacy after his death. Chauthas' legacy, it's complicated.
Complicated how?
Well, on one hand, you have his economic reforms. They really had a lasting impact.
Yeah.
Even the India coalition, they continued many of his policies.
Really? Even though they criticized him before?
Yep, especially the ones that focused on economic growth, technological advancement. You could even argue
Yeah.
that Chautha, he laid the groundwork for India to become, the global economic power it is today.
That's huge. So even his opponents saw the value in some of what he did.
Exactly, but it wasn't all sunshine and roses.
Right.
There were still plenty of critics. They argued that his focus on growth,
Yeah.
came at the expense of social welfare
I
and the Mission Agni controversy.
Right.
That never really went away.
Yeah.
It became like this symbol
Of what?
of Chautha's willingness to use, strong-arm tactics.
Okay.
And that definitely cast a shadow over his legacy.
So it's like a mixed bag, progress and controversy all rolled into one.
Yeah, you could say that.
And the documentary, it doesn't shy away from that. It
Yeah.
presents both sides.
Definitely leaves you with that sense of,
Of what?
ambiguity, acknowledging both the good and the bad.
Which makes you think, right,
Uh,
what if things had gone differently? What if Chautha hadn't been assassinated?
That's the big question, isn't it? Would he have been able to hold on to power? Would those reforms have kept going? Would India be a different place today?
I know, it's hard not to wonder.
Right. It's fascinating how one person's life can have such a huge impact, shape the destiny of a whole nation.
Yeah, it really is. And speaking of impact, the documentary ends on this really thought-provoking note.
Oh, yeah.
It asks, will India ever see another leader like Tejinder Chautha?
Good question.
What do you think? Is that even possible?
It's something people are still debating today. Chautha, he was one of a kind. He had this charisma, ambition. He wasn't afraid to take risks.
Why? Right.
And while he wasn't perfect, no one is. Of
Thanks,
course,
Ed.
he made a real difference. Whether another leader will come along with that same, combination of qualities,
Yeah.
only time will tell.
So what does this all mean for us, for people trying to understand India today?
Chautha's story, it's a reminder that India's political scene, it's complex. It's always changing. It's a country facing huge challenges, huge opportunities.
Yeah.
And it's a place where strong leadership, it can make a real difference, for good or for bad.
It's also a reminder that history, it's never really over. It's an ongoing conversation, and we're all a part of it.
We are.
And it's up to us to engage with that conversation, to learn from the past
Yeah,
and use those lessons to build a better future.
exactly.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from a small village to the halls of power,
We have.
digital revolutions, political
It's
assassinations,
been a journey.
a leader's rise, his triumphs, his controversies, his legacy. It's a lot to think about, but that's what makes a good deep dive so fascinating, right? It leaves you with more questions than answers and a desire to learn even more. Until next time, dive deep and stay curious.